Well, to the war on terror we go. President Obama says that terrorism has not increased, but that he second guesses his decisions. Listen.
Well, I think that, first of all, it's important to recognize that if you look worldwide, the number of terrorist incidents have not substantially increased. There hasn't been probably a week that's gone by in which I haven't re-examined some of the underlying premises around how we're dealing with the situation in Syria and explored whether there are additional options that we haven't thought of.
I want to bring in the author of Defeating Jihad right now, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Dr. Gorka, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Miriam.
I was just struck by that comment. If you look worldwide, we're not looking worldwide. We're looking at America. Do you agree with the president?
His statement, whether it's domestic terrorism occurring in the United States or internationally, is simply false. It's not true. The Site Intelligence Group has estimated since June 2nd of this year, outside of Iraq and Syria, there has been a jihadi attack every 84 hours. We've never seen it so high. If you just look at the University of North Carolina published its annual study on Muslim American involvement in violent extremism. Their study has a bar chart. It's figure 1. All of your viewers can check it out online. Has a bar chart of jihadi attacks in America since September the 11th, attacks or plots. The last year, 2015, saw the highest incidence of jihadi plots in America since September the 11th, 2001. I don't know who's giving him his data, but it is simply fallacious, Maria.
And he's talking to the military. You would think that he would be, you know, make sure everything is like down to this number of factual. He's talking to the very men and women who've put their lives on the line.
Right, absolutely. You've got the spin has to stop somewhere. We understand that we're in an election season. We understand Washington's fuel is spin. But when you're talking to the people, the men and women who wear the cloth of the Republic, just cut it out. Just take the politics out of your presentation. And yesterday it was just politics, Maria.
Yeah.
Sebastian, it's Dagen, McDowell. In terms of politics, do you think if Hillary Clinton wins the presidency that the attitude about radical Islamic terrorism, that the approach, that I guess a seriousness, is it any different than what we've had the last 8 years?
No, I think it would probably be worse. If you look at her campaign stump speeches, she, like the administration, has refused to call the enemy what it is. She refused to talk about jihad or radical Islam. It was only until more than 80 people were killed in France that she finally used the phrase radical jihad, as if there's a nice jihad. So, no, it would be a third term. Add on top of that the Benghazi scandal, the Servergate, Syria, Libya. It would either be a continuation of the Obama policies or even worse.
What needs to be done, Dr. Gorka? I mean, I think people at this point understand where we are, but the president keeps telling this narrative. Let me ask you about this veto, because Congress rejected President Obama's veto of the 9/11 bill. Listen to the president's reaction, and then I want to get your reaction, Dr. Gorka.
The problem with that is that if we eliminate this notion of sovereign immunity, then our men and women in uniform around the world could potentially start seeing ourselves subject to reciprocal laws.
We know that this is the first override of Obama and in his presidency. Do you agree with what he just said, that this decision is dangerous?
No, I don't. Sovereign immunity is not an excuse for bad nations to get away with what Saudi Arabia or Iran or North Korea does. Are we judging ourselves by the standard of state sponsors of terrorism? This vote was historic. We've only done this 110 times in the history of the Republic. So, this is a message that the so-called legacy of the Obama administration is dead in the water. and every Democrat except Harry Reid agrees with the Republicans.
How much do you think the legacy has to do with it, though? Do you think that's what some of these things are about? Because if you look at facts, you can't see how he could possibly be saying some of the things he's saying.
Yeah, look, it is. Look at the Iran deal. The Iran deal is perhaps the most egregiously a-strategic thing America has done in the last 40 years. This is a nation that is a registered state sponsor of terrorism, according to the State Department, and we give them $150 billion. Why would you do that unless you are desperate for a legacy? Everything else has failed. The Russia reset, the red lines in Syria, the stabilization of Iraq. Unfortunately, it is. Spin has trumped national security in this White House.
It sure has.
Dr. Gorka, excuse me, Dr. Gorka, Brian Brenberg here. Is it not true, though, that this 9/11 bill could put, foreign officials overseas at risk? I mean, we've seen it in the past. We've seen other countries, other people talk about, war crimes that the U.S. has committed. These are usually specious crimes, of course, or specious claims, of course. But doesn't it actually put some of our officials at risk?
Look, no more than they already are. There's nothing to stop another nation prosecuting our people already unless there is a SOFA, a status of forces agreement between us and that nation. So the idea that suddenly something happened yesterday and our diplomats or our military are now incredibly more vulnerable than they were before, it's fantasy.
Well, what about this, Sebastian? Pentagon says 600 more troops are headed to Iraq. So what does that tell us? Does this tell us basically that we were wrong? We're losing the fight against terror in the Middle East. Now he's sending more troops to Iraq.
It's a death of 1,000 cuts. ISIS has recruited more than 85,000 jihadis in just a couple of years. We have the best military the world has ever seen, but the idea that 600 extra troops are going to make a difference in this, the deadliest jihadi insurgency of the modern age, it's putting a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound. It's a symbolic gesture that will not do anything significant to fight ISIS as the threat to America.
Right. Well, we'll be watching this. Incredible times. Sebastian Gorka, good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Coming up, Ford recalls thousands of its Focus hatchbacks. What you need to know about the safety concerns.